Welcome to My Lines, brought to you by Colin Boynton. Welcome to the latest episode of my poetry podcasts, the place where I share my world of words. This week my podcast is dedicated to the memory of a very special person, my late partner, Frank Matheson. All these pieces are based on tales and reflections which were true events from his life. My first piece this week is called The Hood. It was during the Second World War the HMS Hood sailed out into the North Sea. As it left to set sail from Scotland, the locals were on the cliff tops to wave farewell and wish good luck. On deck, a piper was playing as it set sail. Shortly after leaving shore, the ship was torpedoed and sunk. This piece is based on what Frank told me. The war was raging overseas. They'd watch the ships sail out. The locals on the cliff top would cheer and give a shout. Everyone seemed hopeful and watched the sailors go, not knowing if they would return, and news could come so slow. A piper played upon the deck, the ship sailed out to sea. Everyone watched on and waved, not knowing what would be. The news came through quite quickly. It wasn't very good. The ship that sunk lost many lives, went by the name of Hood. The sadness in the neighbourhood was felt by one and all, having watched the ship sail by and heard the sailors call. Then as the next ship sailed on by, their thoughts would be the same. Would these brave men come back home? Some they knew by name. Frank had been laid up for a while after he hurt his back, and eventually he had to call the doctor out for help. This tale has a very amusing end, but once again is true and is called Doctor, Doctor. Laid at home and feeling ill, in need of medicine or a pill. And had he passed the sickness on, the poor stray kitty wasn't strong. The doctor sent for, he soon came, all the way from down the lane. Well looked over and well checked out, he was ill, there was no doubt. And seeing Kitty too was ill, decided she would need a pill. I'll send some medicine for you too, take it as you both should do. So off he went back down the lane, and both then waited quite in vain. For when they finally got their cure, there was Kitty medicine, sure. But search the parcel hard he might, there was no cure for him in sight. Had the doctor gone insane, leaving him in all this pain? Or had he simply just forgot to send his medicine in the pot? Another amusing anecdote he told was another experience of his dealings with the local doctor. I need to remind everyone that once again this story, like the previous one, happened in the late 60s in the Highlands of Scotland, when life was different to what it is today. This piece is called Traction Engine. Laid flat out upon his back and in a lot of pain, the doctor who was visiting started to explain. Up come paint tins, out comes string. That is when the doctor said, let traction now begin. Tying tins together, he hung them on each foot and said, I'll see you next day, and that was all he got. He walked out of the bedroom and he was left alone, with no one there to help him or even hear him moan. He fell asleep quite quickly. What else could he do? He couldn't move, he couldn't rise, and no one even knew. Who would come to feed him? How long would this last? He woke up in the morning, glad the night was past. In the middle of the day, the doctor came again. Was he feeling better? Was he still in pain? He said he'd change the paint tins. What colour would he choose? But really wasn't bothered what colour they would use. As long as he got better, that's what mattered most, and get a nice hot cup of tea and a slice of toast. Life in the early 20th century in the Highlands of Scotland was very different to life today. Fertiliser of the land was often seaweed that was collected and spread regularly. The next piece actually happened to two members of Frank's family and is both tragic, yet in a way amusing, and is called Sunk by Seaweed. Every morn at 10:30 the sisters went to sea again, collecting seaweed for the land it fertilised it very grand. Until one day in stupid greed, whilst out collecting their seaweed, they kept collecting more and more, but not returning to the shore. The boat filled up with such a lot, the sisters they had both forgot, and soon it sank beneath the sea, the sisters drowned, no more to be. If there's a moral to this tale, remember when you first set sail, don't overload a rowing boat, or else it cannot stay afloat. My final piece this week once again was local to the Highlands at the turn of the 20th century and about working the land. This one is called Of Cabbages and Things. Everybody grew some veg, potatoes, carrots, peas, cabbages and onions, anything they'd please. You dug your plot and grew your plants, manured things really well, except for someone down the road I really shouldn't tell. The chamber pot each morning was thrown across her plot. Everything that grew there got covered in the lot. So you can just imagine the things that you would find hidden in the cabbage leaves you wish were left behind. You really couldn't say no to something she thought best. A gift of a large cabbage would put you to the test. And not to hurt her feelings, you'd take the gift back home, not to tell her you would feed it to the animals alone. And next time that you saw her, much to your dismay, some more of her dear produce she would put your way. I hope you've enjoyed my choice for this week's episode. None of this week's poems have either been in print or seen and heard by anyone before today. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you will join me once again when I return with the next series of My Lines.